Good morning, guys. Welcome to Learn to Trade live and free. Now, let me just share my screen here. That's something I thought was going on. There we go. Right, so we tried to go long in the FTSE yesterday, and it didn't work out. But actually, I still think the long is probably on. I see a break now of a trend line that it wasn't able to get through. We've got this little level here that maybe we need to burst up and get above, but and a pretty sloppy looking pattern in some respects. In fact, it's probably more of a range than anything else anyway. So let's just draw the box around it. Looks like it's somewhere around here. There's the box that we've got. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And within that box, we got. Actually, let's not get rid of that. We don't need to. In that box, we got this pattern here. And it looks like we've just taken that that area out. In actual fact, let's just tighten that up a little bit. So FTSE comes back to 61.26. That will be a buying opportunity at 61.26. Now we'll mark that off. So it's probably a FTSE buy again. It's definitely a little bit trickier with the Fed due out. FTSE is a buy. Wow. Oh, there's some pretty good numbers from the earnings. Just listening to Deutsche Bank posting up some pretty good gains. So not anywhere near as shabby as it would appear. I think the biggest risk to the market is 61.26. The biggest risk the market has is and probably still the target, maybe the top of the box at 61.56, and possibly the weekly pivot. But that's where the entry would potentially be. Entry at 61.26. Take profit. Now there's probably two. Maybe 61.56. So there could be like a 0.5% move to the upside in the markets here. Let's just quickly get everything together here. Good. Shukri Wan Sui, how's everybody doing? We will chat in a little bit about some of these cryptos as well. So very very interested in the crypto space. Shukri, you are sparking my interest more and more all the time. I'm fascinated by it, and I'm getting closer and closer to trying to get into something, but just the level that it's currently at just isn't there for me. Right. Well, I think that's done. We don't need to worry too much about this now. Looks like the FTSE might take off before it comes back a bit anyway. What have we got? FOMC and Focus, Facebook, Apple, and Alphabet face US lawmakers. Oh dear. What's going on here? Setting pressure on key tech stocks ahead of their quarterly reports weighed in on market sentiment overnight. A congressional antitrust hearing into the tech giants' activities raised concerns among investors. Bonds rallied and the dollar rose for the first time in 7 trading sessions. Increasing nervousness lifted the Japanese yen, and precious metals are in the traders' sights after record highs for gold and a wild 24 hours in the silver markets. Amazon, Apple, Alphabet, Facebook, and Netflix all dropped, dragging the Nasdaq index 1.3% lower. It appeared investors locked in gains ahead of the key risk events in the sector. The antitrust probe is long-term threats to earnings, and elevated share prices are vulnerable to any missteps in quarterly reports from the fourth of the behemoths over the rest of this week. And that is the key, isn't it? If we think about the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq is out of all the equity markets, aside from the DAX, the outperformer, and the DAX is probably starting to win out. Let me just check out the DAX a second. The DAX is starting to win out here as the most attractive option. And that's because I'll take these numbers down now. Do something live. That would be amazing, Shukri. That would be really cool. That would be really cool. When you say do something live, you mean take a trade live in one of those? I'm still a little way off going through that process, but I'll tell you what I'm looking at in a minute. I'll show you what I'm looking at in a minute with the cryptos. G'day, hey Dennis, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, so I really like the DAX. Now, it doesn't mean that I necessarily like the DAX here, but out of all the indices, the DAX is the one that would win out for me. Can't get into the FTSE. FTSE looks like it's already taken off this morning. Let me just double check what is going on under the hood. Let's put you guys there. Yeah, DAX isn't doing too well just yet. So the DAX is going to get more and more interesting. I quite like. Right, we'll have a look at the cryptos in a moment. So let me just quickly check the let me just quickly check the FTSE. FTSE is currently 70% to the good. So under the hood, it looks pretty good. The DAX struggling somewhat. Only 50% of stocks in positive territory on the German market. So maybe a further drift down would be what we should look for with the German market. It looks like it's right on top of some support here. The DAX is just showing some weaker signs. You know, when we look at these longer term bars, the DAX is showing us this high test bar here, and that would suggest coming down. I'd like it down to this this area down a little bit further. That the monthly pivot is going to change by the time this starts to fall, if it does start to fall. But I really like the DAX for some upside. The FTSE is questionable for me. I don't think it's the best. So I'd quite like to. Yeah, huge financial news from Germany. Are you talking about the earnings there, Dennis? Or are you talking about the import prices? Let's have a look at though some of the numbers from Germany. Yuppers in both earnings and the earnings and the import prices. The import prices month on month climbing slightly, interestingly. And what else do we have? Wow, Santander posting a net loss. Interesting. You know, I'm hearing about some of these banks. I think that the banking space is obviously going to be the interesting one, because if we are going to be looking at a bull market, if you like, or a market which is going to start moving. I'm just sorry. I'm just listening into the news here as well at the same time, and the banking sector is a fascinating one, and we should all really keep our ears to the ground on that one, because the earnings are now due, and the earnings have been reported. We're getting a few of them which aren't doing too well. Because we got some of the European banks that haven't actually done too badly. It sounds like Barclays haven't done too badly. I think Bundesbanks sound like they're okay. I might be wrong on which bank it is, but there's a couple in Germany. But Santander just posted, and it sounds pretty ugly. I'm just going to quickly check what's going on with Spain. Hi, Helen. I did have a great break, thank you. Absolutely amazing. Yeah, just what I need is just what I need. It's taken me a little while to get back in the swing of things here, and not so bad really, because I didn't have to walk really too heavily into to any trading, because the markets, yeah, it's just a little bit of hold while we wait for some bits and pieces with the Fed. But yeah, I did. I appreciate you for asking as well. So we have got, this really is the number. The FOMC statement is the big one. That's what we're after. That's what we're really waiting on. And until we really get this, I'm just don't think the market is going to move too significantly. The question really comes in, you know, if we're really keen to trade today, the question comes in: is the speculation for the FOMC statement and the and we know the rate is probably going to be left on hold, but the press conference as well. So the statement and then the press conference after it, you know, is the speculation going to be for that to be positive, meaning that we could actually get a bit of a move higher with stocks, or negative, meaning that we could get a move either lower or just flattening off a little bit. Now the FTSE looks like it's coming back to an area which is tradable. You know, this actually, you know, this area here, the daily pivot, is a long. That is a lot of potential long scenario. Now, if we don't mind the numbers and the earnings that have come out from Germany, we can take this one long. Looks like actually 61.20, doesn't it? So it comes down here, touches there, then we can have a look at a long. But it doesn't seem like we should be looking at too much. You know, we're probably looking at that area there, 61.55 looks to me where the box is. So long at 61.20, closing it up at 61.50 gives us around about 0.5% of a move on the FTSE. So you know, that's just a call that I will leave you guys to make. The only other option is that you try and wait for a short a little bit higher, maybe there, maybe the weekly pivot instead. Yeah, and you know, the week really did trade. We did get some decent movement. The only thing I got into last week was the Nasdaq. I managed to get a Nasdaq short on, which worked out really well. But I couldn't watch the market really. It was just not possible for me to have a break and watch the market with any real focus. So I did take an early trade in the FTSE with a Nasdaq actually, which I didn't, which I lost on because it just didn't. I couldn't manage it, couldn't watch it, and but then I managed to get a decent one with the Nasdaq as well from the absolute high. I just got a bit of a suspicion about the Nasdaq, because I quite like the Nasdaq for upside ultimately, but the good thing is that we can see some weakness just stepping in. German news. So we just had some German banks reporting, and just that those import prices as well. The banking sector didn't seem too bad. Just had some Santander news, which sounded pretty ugly. So let's have a quick look at the Spanish indice as well and see what happened there. Where is that? Might not have Spain on this account. So let me just switch over. Let's see what we got. And then we're going to talk about cryptos, because I've got a bit of a view on these. And yeah, you can see, I mean, this is looking like a bear flag almost, isn't it, on the IBEX. So I quite like Spain for some downside. But I'm going to have to look into this a little bit deeper. Lovely pattern here. Look at that range. It looks that looks really clean. Now let me just see if I can tidy that up a little bit and see where that actually is. That looks like a really clean bear flag or downward channel. So this one breaks to the downside from here. It does suggest that we do get a further drop in the IBEX or IBEX, which however you pronounce it. But it does look like a decent flag, doesn't it? This looks like the flag here with a pole coming up from here. See what it looks like on a daily. Yeah, maybe even better on a daily. Nowhere near the performance as well from Spain as we've seen in Germany. The problem really with these is that what is that? Got a strange line on my chart there. The problem with this really is that the underperformance of the Spanish and the FTSE, you know, the Spanish indices and the FTSE as well, means that they've got more room to run to the upside. You know, if you compare this to, let's say the DAX, completely different. You know, the DAX is almost back to its previous high. The Spanish economy, the IBEX, is nowhere near it. The Spanish indices, sorry, is nowhere near it. It's just frozen. You know, it dripped down a little bit and then it just froze here. So does the downside potential, does it have the room in the same way that something like the DAX does? If there was a global issue, then we are much more likely to get a decent a sell-off in the DAX and the NASDAQ than we were the IBEX. I just don't think this has got as far to go. But because if we looked at detail, then the detail of the Spanish index just isn't, you know, it's just not bullish, which is why it hasn't really gone very far. I mean, how far are we up on this one? So from low to there. Looks like 1,300. I'll check it out for you. I'll tell you now. Yes, you got to check the ZEW, Helen. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, you're trying to make a bit of an assumption on on the, you know, trading a specific economy. Then you do have to have a look around. Oh, closing. How you doing, Chloe?
Yeah, really good. Thanks, Ash. How's it going?
Awesome. Yeah, really good. Really good. I'm just, I mean, there's again not much to do today, Chloe. We got Fed out in a few hours' time, and we really are kind of like going to be biting at small bits and pieces with some of these trades. I think there's probably a little bit of probably intraday upside as we just kind of like bash our heads back and forth here, but pretty weak earnings coming from Santander. I was just looking at this Spanish index, and just really just having a look about how weak it is comparatively. to some of the others. You know, this is that's the let's have a look at Italy as well. Actually, Italy's probably slightly outperformed the Spanish industry. This is the CAC probably again slightly higher. The German is the complete. But you know, this is out and out the best performer in Europe. And then if we kind of like bring in some of the US stocks, then we're looking at the Nasdaq breaking its high. I mean, this one's just crazy, breaking through. These are the previous highs of the Nasdaq, and it's so far above it. And actually, if you were to look at the Nasdaq and look at, say, you know, the fact that it is so far above its previous highs, it would look like it's the best performer of the year. But actually, it isn't. The DAX still rivals it when it comes down to percentage gain of the year. So the DAX and the Nasdaq are the best performing indices. The Spanish economy has just gone nowhere. I think the FTSE somewhere in the middle. but it makes it difficult, in my opinion, Chloe, because I think if there's a worldwide issue, let's say that the situation between Xi Jinping and Trump, you know, China versus the US, really starts to ramp up, which the more and more time that goes on where maybe Trump is behind in the polls, the more likely, in my opinion, that is to happen. So as that does kind of transpire, then a worldwide problem would suggest that with the room that the Nasdaq and the DAX have to come back down to its lows, in comparison to the IBEX or the CAC, would suggest that they might be the better shorts. You know, if there was they've done well when things are okay, and they probably will do the worst when things are not so good. Don't know what your thoughts are on that, but you know, is it the case that we're looking at probably the stronger performer probably to have the worst, have the most significant downside if things do start to turn around, or are we always still looking at the weakest, do you think?
Well, it's hard to say, really, isn't it, Ash? Because we can't predict what's going to happen. But how much of this rally and the rallies in the strongest markets are real, and how much of it is simply to do with people, day traders and speculators jumping on the bandwagon and seeing, oh gosh, this is going up, this is recovering nicely, let me get a piece of it. Thus forcing the price higher than it really should be. And then when things eventually do even out, surely there is some significant downside there.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because actually the earnings aren't, they aren't quite reaching the analyst expectations, but some stocks are. I mean, interestingly, we haven't really had the big tech boys just yet. We had some of them, but not some of the others. So the likes of Amazon and Facebook I think are yet to report. And I think you're right. It'd be interesting to see, has what's happened with the rally really transpired into earnings, because that's what investors are surely going to be more concerned about than anything. Are they going to get a return on their investment? And if these companies haven't earned as much as they've been speculated to do, then I guess we might be ready to come down, which I think is some of the issue we've seen with Tesla. You know, Tesla's just come off its highs and is weakening. And this really brings me back as well to the crypto space. You know, and Shukri, you're going to need to answer this one if you can, if you've got an opinion on this. I really like Ethereum. You know, I was kind of always a bit married to Cardano, and I still like it, but I think that the news on and the story on Cardano is really, it's really started to develop a bit too much for me now. So I feel like, you know, missing that first wave suggests I need something else now to get me back interested. But the more I kind of hear about Ethereum from you and any other reading up I do, the more I like it. I really like Ethereum as a cryptocurrency. So if I'm looking at Ethereum and I'm looking for an entry. Now I know you said it's really about hodl, which I appreciate. And for anybody that's not aware of the term hodl, it means hold on for dear life, get into your cryptos and hold on for dear life. I still see these cryptocurrencies having respect for charts and certain levels. This gap, I think, is has got a really good potential to close, and if it does close, it's got a fantastic area over here to act as support. So I'm liking Ethereum, but I like Ethereum at 286.70 or something like that. 286.70 would be good, actually. Let's call it 286 dead. So 286 is where I like Ethereum. And until it comes back there, I am not buying, because I think that there's a really good chance for this gap to be closed. And if the market hates a vacuum, I would have thought it would still hate a vacuum, whether it's trading on a cryptocurrency, a stock that sells eggs, or an indice. So I think waiting for this 286 would be of interest to me. Now, Ethereum's had, and this is really my question, Ethereum's had a move which beats Bitcoin by around about 10% from its low to its high. And I'm going to show you Bitcoin as well. And it's here. So my question is Ethereum more likely, if we get downside, is Ethereum more likely to have a sharper move down than Bitcoin? Or does it, because it's obviously, the potential for upside in Ethereum is pretty pretty stark from what I can see. So does the potential for upside in Ethereum continue? And it doesn't, and it doesn't cut back as much as Bitcoin, because I want to get a cryptocurrency in the portfolio. Okay, so what we got here, Shukri. Who is the leader of the crypto gang? Oh, that's a really good question. Shukri, he'll know. For Ethereum is $300 and Bitcoin is 10K. If it doesn't break below that, we are off. If it doesn't break below $300 or it doesn't break below 10K, key psychological level. Yes, because Ethereum is launching the 2.0 in August. Yes, I remember that. Okay, so we're all after Ethereum now. Please don't go and buy Ethereum just yet, everyone, because you'll probably, if you buy too much of it, you're going to move the price. So wait till it comes back a bit. Ample fourth. Okay, so 300 you're saying for Ethereum. All right, let's have a look. Really? 300? That's not going to close our gap, though, Shukri. Which is a bit of a problem for me. I'm going to go with your knowledge on this, obviously, because you are the voice on cryptocurrencies. But I've got a bit of a problem with that. If that doesn't close that gap. Now I know I shouldn't be looking at cryptos quite as technically, and I appreciate that, but it's already gone quite some way on this bar to get me through, and then I'm not going to wait for a gap close. I don't think I'd be comfortable with that. Obviously, I might have to be, but okay. Do you know what would be great for us to see on this would be if if this could come down here, give us a proper bit of downside, and then we could maybe sort of like get in there. I really want Ethereum now. I've completely changed tack in this, and you've sparked my interest on looking at some of these other cryptocurrencies, and this one's the winner for me. I like Cardano, and I think we can maybe discuss a bit more of that next week. But yes, it is Axie, Shukri. Yes. Oh, sorry, mate. Yeah, you've mentioned this before. So I'm being really silly. There's no gap because I'm looking on charts which are showing the weekend where there's no gap because cryptos trade all the way through. Sorry, mate. Yeah, you have told me that before. Okay, you might have to keep reminding me of this stuff because I'm still a novice on these cryptos. Okay, so there's no actual gap there. Okay, so we can trade this from 300. Okay, all right. Okay, all right. I'm in with that. Any interest in cryptocurrencies, Chloe?
Yeah, I mean, I am interested, obviously, but I certainly wouldn't call myself an expert. And I'd say I've spent more time just looking at Bitcoin, to be
Yeah.
honest with you, because when I first started getting into cryptocurrencies, or when I first started hearing about them, Bitcoin was the only one really. And so just out of habit, I'm a creature of habit, Ash.
Nothing wrong with being a creature of habit.
Takes me a long time to pick up on new stuff.
Oh yeah, me too.
And
Me too.
I know someone who does know a lot about Bitcoin, and their opinion of the other cryptocurrencies is slightly lower. They see Bitcoin as a long-term thing, and they see the others as things that kind of come and go.
Yes. Well, I think it's a shame you haven't heard Shukri's method on how to trade those things, because he's got some quite sophisticated ways to play some of these other cryptocurrencies without having too negative exposure to some of these smaller ones. I mean, I think we're probably all the same, where there seems to be a cryptocurrency coming out every day at the minute, a new one coming out every day. So it would be hard to see which ones are going to be the ones that last the longest and actually last the test of time. but yeah, the likes of Bitcoin and Ethereum seem to be a little bit more secure right now, even though I suspect they're going to be outdated before too long. Now, just very, very quickly before we continue this conversation about cryptocurrencies, FTSE is now at an interesting level. So there's a potential trade long here, with the FTSE bouncing off this this daily pivot. Now, I might well take something here myself. Let me just see what I want to do here. Sorry, give me a moment. Is there anything you're looking at, Chloe, or is it really wait? Are you same as me, where you're waiting?
More so than yesterday, Ash.
Oh,
To
okay.
be honest with you, today's looking better than yesterday for me. Do you want me to
Oh, great.
grab the
Yeah.
screen while you're
Yeah. Pinch the
doing that?
screen.
Let me
I'm going to
just-
see if I can get into something here with a FTSE. And yeah, I'll go from there.
Okay. So, I mean, overall things haven't changed in that I am still being cautious. I do still see some of these huge moves that we saw last week as potentially overextended, but the bulls seem to have come back into some of these markets. So a couple of things that I'm looking at. I always start off with the daily time frame. Aussie Kiwi has now taken out the previous high over here and is looking fairly bullish to me. So for me, in terms of a potential target of where this could head to, it's probably up here at this previous high, which on an intraday time frame does give me a bit of space to trade. I'm not trading it on the daily because there's just not enough reward to risk, but intraday I'm happy to have a look and trade this long. The problem with the opportunity that happened was right on the change of the daily pivot, the change of the daily bar, and it was a big bar. So I don't trade big bars. So there was no entry for me on Aussie Kiwi, but I'm not ruling out perhaps a long entry later on. And that brings me to some of the other Aussie pairs. Aussie dollar, just straight Aussie dollar. It looked like it was hesitating at this previous high level yesterday, and it did in fact form pretty much a doji bar, which is clear indecision. But today, so far, things look bullish. We've just about taken out yesterday's high. So again, yes, overall, I'm expecting a retracement at some point, but I'm staying in the trades that I'm in. and I would be happy to scale in on a lower time frame, even if it's just short term. So the trades I'm already in are more kind of longer term trades at the moment. But if I can get something short term, the really good answer would have been on this hourly time frame earlier on, because there was a bounce from a horizontal level there. I've missed that because this is early enough for me in the morning. I don't get up any earlier than this at the moment. But we have continued to make higher highs. So if price does retrace and give me another opportunity, then I'll be looking out for that as well. So Aussie dollar, probably, I'd say Aussie dollar is probably the highest on my list for long opportunities, to be honest with you, at the moment. So Aussie dollar on my list. EuroCAD also. Now EuroCAD, I was waiting for a retracement yesterday, and today it's taken off bullishly again. So the fact that we have broken above the daily pivot and closed above the daily pivot now gives me the opportunity to potentially look out for a long trade. Now, the trade was at the daily pivot. Now that we've made new highs, I've got to look for a new trading opportunity, and I need a new candle to trade. So this candle here, the one that's just closed on the 15-minute time frame, it's just not bullish enough for me to trade. So I'm waiting for another test, either of the daily pivot or of my moving average here, and then I'll be looking for longs on EuroCAD. So that's another one that's pretty high up on my list. Euro Kiwi, this is one that I was discussing yesterday. As you know, yesterday was a bit of a kind of a dud day, really. It went up and then it came down and closed pretty much on my horizontal level and pretty much not very far from where it opened. So it's a bit of a dud day, but today is a new day. And again, it is still looking bullish. We've got above the daily pivot. So I'm going to be looking for long opportunities here as well. I need to see a retracement on the 15-minute time frame if I'm going to trade the 15-minute time frame, and then I'll be looking for longs there. So that's on my watch list. Euro dollar as well. You know, we were discussing yesterday how euro dollar was overextended, and yes, it did pull back slightly, but today so far it is taking off. And I suppose this goes to show the importance of being flexible. So I'm not one to look at euro dollar here and say that's overextended, I'm going to start trading it short. That's not my style. So I would never trade the euro dollar short in an uptrend. Some people do, and that's absolutely fine if you can be successful at that. I just know from past experience that I'm not very good at counter trend trading. But despite having in my mind, well, that needs to retrace, so it's going to come down a way and then I'll trade. Also, I have to have in my mind an area where, or a level where I will continue to trade long if it continues long, because it might just as easily continue long. So for me, it's about the daily pivot on occasions like this. If let's look at the 4-hourly.
So you're looking at this on a shorter term time frame now, are you, Chloe?
Yeah, I am, Ash. Overall, on the longer time frame, there just isn't anything I can do. It's gone, and it needs to come back a significant way before I can get in. But on the shorter term time frame, I've seen the retracement that happened yesterday. I've got a lot of rejection around here of this daily pivot. It only really closed below the daily pivot just before the daily pivot was due to change anyway. And since then, today, it has been bullish and it's come above the daily pivot, which has moved up from yesterday's. So all along here, I've got higher lows. All along here, I've got an indication that really the sellers aren't the strongest in this market. They're not ready to, or the buyers aren't ready to give up on this just yet. So we're above, pretty strongly above the daily pivot. So that's really, if I were to be looking at this, you know, I don't know what time zone all of our listeners and watchers are on. Obviously, we're in the UK, we've only just started our day. But if I were to have been looking at this earlier on, if I was over in Asia or Australia or whatever, then this is the area I'd be focusing on. And I would be saying, if price tests this daily pivot and goes down, then we're potentially on for a retracement and a move down. But if price tests this daily pivot and breaks up, then I want to see opportunities to trade long. And once you've decided that, once you've got an idea in your head about what you want, then you can find the trades, because here it is. Price breaks above the daily pivot, it trades above for several bars, closes above the daily pivot, comes down and tests. Whichever test bar you take of this, even if you wait for this really, really decisive bullish engulfing bar,
Yeah.
you've got a good chance of getting something, and it might not go very far.
What time was that engulfing bar?
That was is that 6:45 a.m. for us, or 5:45 a.m. Yeah, 6:45 a.m. for us.
6:45. So just. Oh,
5
really?
a.m. for
Okay.
me.
All right. Yeah, just before the 7 o'clock.
Yep.
So yeah, that is
Definitely.
early. That is early. I was just thinking, was it just before some of those data points as well?
Yeah, quite possibly. Quite possibly it was. With my trading, what I often find that it's the news and the data that pushes the trade in the right direction. So
Yeah.
if I stay out of trades because I'm afraid that there's news coming out, then I can miss quite a lot. So I tend to stay away from the really low time frames just before news. But the ideal situation for me is to find a really good setup and get into that before the news. And if the trend is strong, then it tends to carry it in the right direction.
Yeah.
And what I mean by a really good setup is I've been watching it, I've made my decision on what I think is going to happen. That may or may not happen, but if it does happen, then I know I was right. And then I know I'm just looking for a strong setup, and then we're off.
So you're waiting for the news to pass?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. No, I don't know what time the news was out this morning, Ash.
I can. Really, there's been a load of earnings out, and I guess that's really what's pushing the euro. But actually, a few. There's just been there's been a few different announcements today, right the way through Europe. So I guess there was some anticipation of some of the move. Interesting that it was that bar that took us took us higher just before we went into the 7 o'clock hour. And I do notice that the European currencies do tend to have a bit of a movement between 7 and 8 o'clock, just before the UK market opens up. So it could have been more to do with that. It could have been to do with another announcement. I don't know, but we've had them really throughout the morning. Some of these news points throughout the morning, these data points throughout the morning.
Yeah, it's one of the best times, I think, Ash, for the kind of European currencies, euro, pound, Swissy. I really like, or I used to really like, the very early mornings, because as I say, I'm not trading the move when the market opens. I'm trying to get myself set up ready for the move when the market opens. And the worst that can happen, and Ash, this is only my style of trading, not suggesting that it's right or wrong or anything like that, because I know a lot of people are very cautious about the news and things like that. But what I've noticed over my years of trading is whenever I've been trading and I've kept myself out of a trade because of news, I've always been disappointed, because if the market's gone in my direction, it's gone in my direction in a big way, and I could have made a big profit. And if the market went against me, I would have lost down to my stop loss, maybe give or take a bit of slippage if it's a big, strong, heavy news-based move. But the options here, if I were to have entered this trade, the options here would have been for price to go strongly in my direction, for price to go weakly in my direction, or for price to hit my stop loss. So the options are lose 1%, make 1%, or make 5 or 6%. Do you see what I mean? So yes, you can get stopped out of trades very easily by news, and everyone should definitely be aware of that and cautious of that. But for me, I don't necessarily let it put me off unless it's big news, you know, unless it's elections or, you know, non-farm payrolls. I tend to stay away from mainly these days because I don't trade on Fridays. But apart from that, I like to be prepared in advance and then see if I can get the news to shove things in the right direction.
Yeah. I think I completely concur with that, actually, and I guess that's why we're looking at some of these positions with some of the other markets. That the FTSE position that I don't know if everybody took that or not, but that's now going in our direction, and I've moved my stops pretty tight. Actually, I might even move them to break even here. And we'll see if it does start to take off. So any of you guys did get into that FTSE trade, this is going to be dependent on how people feel throughout the day. But we may well have got a pretty good price down here. So that's 60.26 that we were talking about is working out pretty nicely. It's starting to take off. So have a think about whether you want to move stops to break even or what you want to do with that particular trade. But I think just because of what Chloe's saying about the news, this will be news dependent. If we can remain above this price, it's possible that Fed announcement will keep us in this trade and keep us moving positively. So you can probably use that as a tool later on. But yeah, sorry, Chloe, just an update on the trade.
Yeah, no worries, Ash. I think I'm
the
just
DAX
looking
on its
through the
way
rest
as
of the
well.
charts. I think everything is on the move now. Everything is, it's gone too far for me to probably get in. The moves this morning were early.
Yeah.
And I'm not an early riser, so I've missed them. And the worst thing you can try and do is chase the market. So these have gone. It's going to be a while now before they retrace. Probably have to wait until the afternoon, perhaps. But there we go. At least things are moving.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we are getting a pretty nice move actually right across the board. Just looking at let's just have a quick look over here. Is there anything else you wanted to look at, Chloe?
No, not really, Ash. That's
okay.
Pretty much everything. All of the things that I'm looking at. I mean, you've seen me flick through. So I was looking after euro dollar. I was looking at dollar Swiss, dollar yen, both on the move. So they're both on my watch list for short, and I am looking for basically pullbacks, breathers, little spaces in the market that I can get into. But as we can see, this last 15-minute bar has really taken off. So it's going to have to be a pretty big pullback now for me to be able to get into that.
Yeah. Okay, let's have
Such is life.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? And oh gosh, yeah, that has gone. So dollar down against the Swissy. Goodness me, is gold on the move?
Gold isn't actually so much.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, it is moving
Yeah.
to the upside. I think there is something there, but it's certainly not on the move as much, which is strange.
It is strange. VIX on its way down as well, so that's probably helping out some of these stocks. I'm seeing, yeah, the Nasdaq is moving. Actually, let's have a look at these together. Don't need this anymore. There we go. So there's our FTSE trade there. We are on the way with that one. And we got the S&P on the move as well. Interesting, really, that we might well just be, you know, just taking a little bit of a rally within the pattern. I have moved my stop to break even on the FTSE, and that's purely because I don't know whether we're going to get a really decent move to the upside or whether it's just going to be just a bit of I guess just a slight reaction. So I've moved stops to break even. I entered, as I said, just on this trend line down here where the daily pivot was, and now I've moved those stops to break even. Likely to get taken out, but I'm okay with that. I don't really want to mess around with the market when it's so bearish down here. It could quite easily just turn around and take me out again. But we're starting to see some movement now. So the DAX has got this this odd looking inverted head and shoulders. Now let's see if there's any clearer on the 4 hour. Yeah, it's clearer because it's not there. So there's no inverted head and shoulders there. It looked like there could have been on the hourly, but that's not there. Let's just double check our low point there. Lower end of the box down here. I suppose it's possible that that we could call this an inverted head and shoulders. It's going to be maybe stretching the friendship somewhat to have that as our neckline, and then left shoulder there and the right shoulder down there. The fact that the right shoulder is lower than the left shoulder tells us really how bearish this this bullish inverted head and shoulders is, if you like, or how weak the inverted head and shoulders is down here. So probably not to be trusted. But push to the upside with the Nasdaq. That's helping things out a bit. Gold, as Chloe says, hasn't really done a whole bunch, so that's still struggling somewhat to break to new highs. The euro has started to move to the upside. Probably more about the euro. Let's have a look at the pound actually against the dollar. Yeah, the pound's actually moving pretty solidly. Let's have a look at the euro pound. Euro pound moving to the downside so far. I just want to check the Aussie dollar. It does actually look like there has been some movement in these currencies. I was wondering whether it might be because we've got we had that that news and data out of much of the earnings from the European space, and that's why we were getting a push in the euro, but and maybe the Swissy, but actually the Aussie is starting to extend its legs against the dollar as well, and so did the pound, which I guess is euro exposed. So maybe it's more of a dollar story. Interesting that that gold hasn't really moved so much. Let's just double check on WTI as well. WTI getting a little bit of a boost to the upside. So now some of the news has cleared out. We're actually seeing a little bit of a rally going on. Nothing too huge. I'm just going to check Bitcoin again, just see if that also was a benefactor, and it hasn't really been. Yeah, there's there's definitely a bit of movement on there, but if you're in the FTSE, that's great, because we are, looks like we're nicely moving to the upside, and we got a free trade. Platinum and natural gas on weekly market Sunday, and both went up. Yeah, Jules was on that, wasn't he, on nat gas? Let's have a look at that. So nat gas isn't up on the week. I mean, if you asked on Sunday, we are basically, this is the weekly bar right now. They're both flat. It's flat. If you ask this Sunday, if you ask the previous Sunday, obviously that's different. Both fairly flat. Looks pretty good. I mean, I'm not clued up at all about the natural gas space. Yeah, so I don't know about that, Helen. It looks like it's bottoming out. We can certainly analyze it to a degree down here. Let's have a look. Right, nat gas. Sorry, I'm just getting a bit distracted there. Let me see. The range is a problem, isn't it? nat gas, and it does seem really rangy. It doesn't. It's not very clear. I don't see a really clear turnaround here, actually. But one thing about this nat gas, I suppose. You know, it's in another one of those boxes. It looks like we got a double bottom down here, or a W bottoming pattern down here, coming down, coming up, and coming down. Now, is that ready to come up? But it needs to take out this area. The good thing about natural gas is that it looks like it's got lots and lots of room for some upside. Now, I think this is a seasonal play, from what I gather, from what Julian was saying. So seasonally, I think natural gas is due to break to the upside. But if it could come through, that might be a better spot to pick it in. And you want to see a close above, so maybe a close above the neckline rather than just something like this is no good really. We'd want to see an actual nice solid bar close above. And then natural gas might well be a decent move to the upside. I don't think I'd be interested before that personally, Helen. It just looks a bit scruffy still down here. You may well end up being right, but just not having your timing right, and then have your money tied up for some months when you could be trading something else instead. So I'm not sure when this is due to break out. Julian is really good at picking these things out. And he's normally fairly substantially ahead of everybody else. So it's probably something that he would suggest put on your watch list, and then see what happens with it, rather than just diving into it just yet. But that would be the way I'd play it anyway. Right. Coffee is not on Fusion, no. No, coffee is not on Fusion, but let's have a look at coffee here. Yeah, Jules liked this one as well, didn't he? And he's a bit of a coffee king. He knows what he's doing with coffee. He trades this quite regularly, very, very successfully. It looks good, doesn't it? That actually does look like we've managed to break out of a pattern here. And it still looks all right for some upside. Let's just check that coffee. A little bit overbought on some of the indicators. It doesn't mean that it is overbought, but the indicators are suggesting it's a little bit overbought. Yeah, this looks really good, actually. I mean, looking at this on a weekly chart as well, it looks like if it can come back just a shade, it looks like this is the potential trend line here, which is pretty good. You know, we got closing, we got touches here, close price there, touch there, touch through there. Coming back would probably meet this horizontal level here. So the obvious price point to me, and look at how clean that horizontal level is. Okay, that's a bit more scruffy there. Oh, what's going on? I think we might need to jump out of the show. I'm just gonna. Okay, no problem. Okay, guys, sorry, we're going to wrap it up. We got something else booked into Zoom. We'll check this coffee tomorrow, but my price on coffee, just so you know, is 105.50. Okay, but we got to wrap it up. Paul needs to use the room, and I think he was hoping that we would be wrapped up by the top of the hour. So I'm going to get out now, and we will be back again tomorrow. I think we've pretty much covered everything anyway. FTSE 100 is on its way, so manage that as you will, and we'll go from there. Okay, thanks so much, sir, for listening, guys. Thanks so much to Chloe as well, and I will see you all in the morning, or some of you are seeing the US show. Okay, bye-bye for now.
Cheers, guys. Bye.